Would you like to learn about the easiest home brewing method ever developed? Well, today I am talking to Chris Graham about his revolutionary home brewing recipe kit called Flash Brewing. And be sure to stay to the end because there Chris shares some of his tips on how he served a flash brewed batch in just over a week, and it was really great. Now, I'm going to start tonight's live stream with a 3-minute introduction to flash brewing. And I think this will help you more fully appreciate my discussion with Chris. So, only just 3 minutes long. And if I hit all the buttons correct, hopefully it will come across okay. And let me know what you're picking up and the quality of the audio and the video.
This is a flash brewing beer kit, a new way to make beer at home. So the first thing we're going to need to do is sanitize our fermenter. So we're going to add 1 teaspoon of Star San to 1 gallon of water. Go ahead and mix that in, make sure it touches everything. We're going to need at least 2 minutes of contact time. So make sure that contacts everything. Do not fear the foam. The foam is good. That means it's doing its job. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and open the spigot and collect that into a pot or something you have. Sanitize the spigot, and then we're going to use that to sanitize our other equipment we're going to use later. Throw in your lid, your airlock, your stopper, and also a pair of scissors because we're going to use that to open all our ingredients. Now we're going to add 3 gallons of water to our fermenter, and we're going to add the rest later on. The reason we're going to add that later is to help mix everything up. All right, the next thing we're going to do is add the ingredients. So go ahead and use those scissors to open up any packaging, add them to the fermenter one at a time. The order does not matter. You actually don't need to mix it all up. We're going to add the water, that's going to agitate it. And then during fermentation, that convection is also going to mix it up as well. That's the magic of flash brewing. It's just that easy. Now that all our ingredients in the fermenter, go ahead and add those last 2 gallons. It's going to help mix everything up and get your starting base ready to ferment. All right, now we're going to seal everything up. So go ahead and add your lid, make sure it's on there nice and tight. You're going to add your stopper and then your airlock. In the 3-piece airlock, there's a little line on there. We want to make sure we add water or sanitizer up to that line. And just like that, your beer is ready to start fermenting. We're going to want to store our fermenter at a place that's not going to be disturbed and keep it at room temperature. The yeast that comes in these kits puts the flash in flash brewing. It's going to kick off right away and finish a lot faster than you might be used to. But if you've never fermented before, these are the signs you're going to look for. You're going to see activity in the airlock, gas coming out. You're going to see a krausen, kind of a foamy activity on the top. That means everything's working and your beer is on its way. If you don't see any activity in the airlock after a couple hours, just make sure everything's tight. We don't want any gas escaping anywhere other than through that airlock. Total fermentation time takes about 10 to 14 days. So make sure you let it sit, go through its conditioning. It allows all those flavors to develop and create a delicious beer. When the airlock shows no activity for 24 hours, you're done and ready to move on to the next step. You're going to notice all the yeast start to settle out, and you're going to see a nice layer of yeast at the bottom of the fermenter. Once fermentation is done, it's now time to package our beer. So using the bottling wand, you're going to want to fill it, make sure the liquid goes all the way to the top, because as we pull out that wand, the liquid that it displaced will come out. So you'll have an amount of headroom in there for it to go ahead and carbonate. So again, just let the liquid come up to the top, then pull it out and move on to the next bottle. To carbonate our beer, we're going to use pop shots. We're going to add 4 tablets per bottle, and that's going to go ahead and carbonate our beer. Once we've had our pop shots, go ahead and secure the bottles. These are the flip top bottles, so it's easy to just close it on up. So that's flash brewing. It's a quick and easy way to make beer at home.
Okay, I hope that gives you a little sense for what flash brewing is all about. Now, coming up, I had a long, about a 15-minute discussion with Chris Graham and asking some details. So let's go to that next and just jump right into the conversation with Chris. And if you get a chance, let me know in the comments any questions you've got. I'll be there, and also let me know about the quality of the audio and the video. So with that, let's do this, and I'll come back in just a minute, and I'll be there in the chat. Well, hi, everybody. I am with Chris Graham of More Beer.
always have a blast talking to him. I've had trouble cornering him because he's been doing a lot of travel lately. So I've had to put off a big question. So my big question is, I've heard they have some neat new simplified home brewing, but I haven't been able to get in touch with him yet. So I just thought I would call up Chris today and see if he could share with me this new process. So, Chris, I hear you've had a lot of travel. Please tell me about where you've been, if you can tell me, and then let's talk about the new kit you've got.
Well, thanks for having me on, Doug. It's always good to talk to you. And we are super excited about this. It's been, gosh, almost 2 years in the making. So lots of refinements, tweaks, and improvements. But this summer has been a crazy busy summer. I've traveled all over the US, been spending a fair amount of time in my other warehouse in Pennsylvania. So that takes up a good portion of my time this summer, which isn't normal for me. But making a few changes that we're working on now. But let's talk about flash brewing, and that's what we're calling it. I want to premise a few things. The goal, because I think there's a little bit of misconstruction or misbelief that we're trying to get rid of all grain or get rid of extract brewing. That's not it at all. The idea of this is, I think it's just kind of another platform, um, very similar to both all grain and extract with slight twists. But the real goal is, I mean, we're seeing this industry be hard hit. It's hard for new people coming in. We're not seeing a whole lot of new people coming in. It could be an intimidating hobby for people when they're looking at, first day is a couple hours, then you got to wait a while, a couple weeks, and then you find out if your beer was any good after a bit. And I guess this doesn't replace all of that, but that initial thing, that initial brew day, we've got down to 8-10 minutes, as opposed to 2 to 3, 4, 5, 6 hours.
Wait, 8 to 10 minutes?
Yeah, it takes me longer to find my fermenter than it does the rest of the process. So,
No kidding. Wow.
yeah,
And hence the name Flash.
exactly. That's exactly it. It is just you're brewing in a flash, um, and really, we want people to have that first initial great experience. And there's so many variables as a home brewer, as you know, and many of your audience knows. Do you have great fermentation temp control? Do you have this, that, the other? There's so many things that people talk about their first batch of beer and not usually in a loving way. And what we're trying to do is have that initial good experience. Because how many people have you met along the way too? Like, oh, I tried someone's homebrew, it wasn't so good. So they just have this assumption that homebrewing is just always bad. Um, so if we can knock down that time commitment, knock down the chances of bad beer, then put people on their best foot forward going forward. Then we've seen a whole lot of people with life changes, meaning they brewed like crazy, traveled like crazy, whatever it is, and kids, whatever life gets in the way. They want to make a batch of beer, but they don't really want to commit that time frame. And how many people I talk to are like, "Oh, I brewed so much and I loved it. I loved everything about it, but I just don't have the time anymore." So we're hoping this kind of helps some of them get back into the hobby, without that time commitment. From a quality of beer standpoint, this is going to be good beer. Is it going to be the best you've ever had? Probably not. Is this going to be horrible? No. I entered blindly into the nationals and I got a 34. Pretty darn good for something that
Yeah.
is, and everything was talking about drinkable and this, that, and the other. So that's what I kind of wanted. I kind of was, to be honest, saying that this gets a 29, I am satisfied. Because that to me should be a good drinkable beer. And that's, if we can get people making their first batch, that is a good drinkable beer. I think we got a winner. So um, we'll break it down a little bit. It comes,
Please.
we try to simplify it. We try to dumb it down. We're not trying to create a whole new revolution, but we are using specifically DME that is already boiled for you. So your malt is already pre-done. We're adding things into that. It's a bit proprietary. We're trying to keep it that way, but to ensure success. Then we are using um, already isomerized hops in the form of oil so that you can get your bitterness without having to do a boil in order to extract it. We're using mostly cryo hops. Um, and what we found with those is we can add them pre-fermentation and still get killer flavor and aroma for them through the fermentation. They don't lose it as much. And then the yeast, we have our first strain now that we call flash brewing strain yeast, but we're actually working with a couple manufacturers on maybe some future ones too. But this yeast is kind of cool in that it's real good at dropping pH fast, meaning put you in a safe place quicker,
Right.
and pretty temperature tolerant. I've done experiments with it in the 70s, high 60s, 70s, 80s, and low 90s, and even a little bit above that. And it's not making tons of fusel alcohol or anything like that. It's fairly clean. Um, and so it allows that first time brewer ease. They don't have to have this. So a lot of my experiments have been when making a video or brewing an all grain batch and I just want to have a little extra beer. This is like my second beer of the day. Like you spend 6 hours making a nice all grain lager or whatnot. And then I just whip this up, and essentially to eliminate the risk of contamination, since I'm talking to mostly people who know what they're doing, we basically have them sanitize the fermenter in a pretty easy way, and then dump that out, pour in about 1 gallon of their water, 5 gallon batch right now. We're working on smaller sizes, which I'll follow shortly, but we figured why not cater to what we already know. And perfect it. We want to make sure we really perfect it well, which I think the first few kits we've nailed. We're hoping to come out with more as we keep going. But basically adding your malt, your flash brewing malt, after the 1 gallon, and then your yeast, your hops, both bitterness and aroma and flavor, and topping it up. No need to stir. And that's where we're kind of helping to reduce that chance of adding a whole new bacteria subset and just set it and forget it. The yeast is pretty good in that I tend to find it finishes me out as long as I'm not too cold and well under a week. If it's maybe in the low 60s, I'm a little fearful, but I don't think for most people that's a big problem. If it's in their indoors area, that shouldn't be a problem. Um, and then from then on out, it's the same as anything else. But we're trying to make it really simple whip form of we've got carbonation drops that they put in a bottle, a flip top bottle, fill it right off of the fermenter, and you're done. It's that easy where they're not needing to transfer, i.e., another place of bacteria pickup and oxygen pickup, which we've all had that before if they're not good at it yet. So we're trying to just reduce each area that can be a potential contaminant or bad beer flavor pickup point.
Wow. Well, that was actually my next question was, what you were doing for carbonation. So you just got natural carbonation, which I guess takes another 2 week to 10 days,
depending.
Yeah.
Now, if someone's a home brewer already and has a kegging setup, there's no reason. I've been doing all kegging, to be honest. I'm not doing a whole lot of bottle conditioning. But for the brand new brewer, it is easy. And again, not trying to introduce how to use a bottle capper, how to handle your caps first, how to do all that kind of stuff. We're trying to just keep it as simple as possible.
So what styles do you have?
Oh, I should have been prepared and had those out. We have, I know some of the most popular ones right now is High Heart IPA, the Blonde Ale. We took some of our most popular kits that we feel would be a good conversion and just made ones of that and did the beta testing to make sure those came out. But a lot of that kind of beer, which is the most popular, the IPAs, the Pale Ales, the Blonde Ales, we're not yet getting into a barrel aged bourbon stout or whatnot. That's a going to require a lot more engineering to make those.
Sure, sure. So how do we get these kits? And are they readily available?
Yeah, we launched them a couple weeks ago, and they've been flying off the shelf. In fact, I just happened to be by production, and they're making a whole bunch more. So morebeer.com, right there on the homepage right now. And then if they're not on the homepage, just type in Flash, and you'll find them easily.
So what else do we need besides the kit itself? If I've got a neighbor and he's been interested in my home brews, if I said, "Hey, this is the flash kit you need," what about the bottles and things like that?
We sell a Flash brewing equipment kit if they want to start, kind of like any other starter kit where you get your sanitizer and things like that to get going. Your bottling wand, because we're having you do it, like I said, in the fermenter and then bottling right off. It comes with tubing and the bottling, the flip top bottles, the carbonation drops, and anything else you need to brew that batch. But if you are already a brewer, you already have everything you need.
Well, this is for new people, I think, for the most part. As you know, I'm on the AHA committee, and we're just trying to kind of spread the word. And there's a lot of new people interested in the hobby. But as you said, it can be off-putting to see all the equipment that you might want to buy.
Yeah, that's the hard part, is how do you separate that? And we are actually working on smaller sizes. That'll be the next iteration of this. And then we're also working on inexpensive kegging setups, both at the 5 gallon and at the smaller sizes. So, the traditional homebrewing kegging, especially since corny kegs are getting harder to get used, that's a pretty big investment for someone to get into. Some of these will be at 30% the cost, if we can figure out all the little details of what a traditional one would be.
Okay, well, great. Well, let's do a couple of rapid fire questions. So, bottom line, if I start my brew day and I've got my fermenter there, I have all my equipment. How much time does it require from start to finish to get it into fermentation mode?
So Vito just did this. We did it with a stopwatch. So just for the fun of it, he was making one for a camping trip. So he had Joe come over. Joe started the stopwatch, and he had problems with the lid of his Fur Monster. The gasket had come out. So he had to figure out how to put that back in. He sanitized the fermenter and did everything he needed to do in under 8 minutes. And he was walking away. So
Okay,
and it ferments
so
for a week to 2 weeks, depending.
and I can ferment it in any place in my house. Set it in the kitchen.
Any
What do you
place that a
recommend?
human can live comfortably, relatively comfortably, but it can get fairly warm. So I wouldn't fear, oh my gosh, I have to run the AC all the time. No, it's fine in the low 90s or even a little bit higher.
And should it be in the dark, or is it okay if I just put it out on the kitchen counter?
There are hops, so there is that risk of a little bit of light skunking. We've done mostly out, actually, now that I say all that, and they're not hitting natural sunlight, they're hitting, lights, spectrum lights, and we've not had a
Interior.
single issue.
Okay. And so I put it on my kitchen counter. Roughly, what's the soonest and what's roughly the latest it should be before I can then put it in the bottles and start bottle conditioning?
So you put it on your counter, you walk away, you come back that night, and you should see some signs of activity, whether that's colonies at the top, maybe not huge krausen yet, but the next day it should be churning. It's usually a very fast start situation. Um, let's say your house is at 74 degrees, nice round number. I would think most IPAs are under, or you're going to be done in 5 to 6 days, and you could be bottling as early as the 7th if you really wanted to. You could let it settle out a little bit more for another week and be just fine, but somewhere in that window.
Well, we both know new homebrewers lack patience. So
Yeah, I lack patience. Are you kidding me? I flipped
okay,
one of these. I flipped one of these in under a week and a half, 2 serving for 4th of July. And that actually came out great, but it was a tight time crunch.
okay. So I've waited 7 days, 7 to 10 days, put it in the bottle, and then I've got to wait on the bottle conditioning. How long do you recommend?
Another week minimum and test it after a week. Grab one bottle in the morning after a week, put it in the fridge, try it that night. If you love the carbonation level, put the whole thing in and you're good to go. If you're like, hey, I'd like it to be a little bit more, let it sit at room temperature another few days and try one more.
Okay, I mean, this almost sounds like making pickles.
In a way,
This is
it's
so
not that
easy.
different. I mean, just
Yeah,
that's
I
like
like it.
regular homebrew, though. Regular homebrew, I would describe the same way at that point.
That's true. That's true. So the real savings is the initial start of the brew.
The start of the brew, and then, like we said, we tried to really pinpoint all those places things can go wrong and see, like, how can we do it without introducing those pickup points. And life's a series of compromises, and a few of them in my mind were compromises, but I think they were good compromises. um, as a home brewer, I consider this a platform. So I've played around a little bit with, hey, I don't want to add my hops all up front. I'm going to let it ferment and add those hops when it's done. There's no reason you can't do that. We're just trying to make it so easy on that person's first time they brew. They don't have to think like, oh, I have to come back after this many days and do this and this and this. But there's no reason you, as an educated brewer, couldn't make it a little bit different. But you still get all that time savings from not making the mash and not boiling.
Oh, super. Well, I've got to give that a try and check it out and see how it goes.
I'll be happy
Uh,
to send you.
I would love to get it if there are any available. Are you selling
There
out
is.
or?
A few have sold out and they've already replenished them, so we're good to go again. So I'll send you a list and you choose one.
Please do, Chris. I look forward to that. I look forward to catching up with you on all the new equipment, but this sounds like one of the most exciting things that you're working on right now. Is there any, now that we're kind of in the middle of the summer, the fall's coming up, kind of the heavier brewing season, anything we can kind of look forward to coming up?
Um, we're always working on our fermenters. We're always having fun with different things. Literally loving my X3 conical with the jacket and the TC top. That's made summertime brewing so much easier. I'm doing most of my carbonation in it now too,
Oh, wow.
because I don't have enough kegs available. um, it's a great problem to have.
Yeah,
My wife hasn't really loved our electrical bills lately, but that's a different subject for a different day.
that's right. That's worth it. That's worth it. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you at the next event. I look forward to following up with you and letting you know how my flash brewing went. And hopefully we'll run into each other at another event. And I want to catch up with you maybe in a few months and hear what's new.